Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and I am a co-active life coach as well as the host for MindPod. Welcome to the second episode. This is a place where I will be bringing interesting human beings to explore an idea. There is no right, no wrong, just browsing. So let's see what we can stir up today. Our guest today is Arash Akhundi, who has a bachelor's degree in biotechnology, a master's in international business from HALT. He's been in the UAE since 2007 and currently an investor in Dubai. So let's invite him in. Welcome, Arash.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. How's everything?
All good, all good.
Great.
Yeah.
So Arash, the other day I was browsing movies to watch and then I stumbled upon a list of time travel movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought okay, movies, they physically kind of travel into future, past, and come back to present and vice versa. And I was wondering maybe we always do that in our minds. So I thought, it would be very interesting to explore the past, present, and future and the relationship amongst these three spaces today with you.
Yeah, that's a lovely idea. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. Of course, bearing in mind that there are circumstances that we can't have control over, we're going to focus on what we have control over and see what we can come up with. So, quickly, if we were to define those three, the past is what has been done, the present is what's happening right now, and the future is what could be done. So, I feel like we all spend time in all three, but of course, we have a specific spot that we spend more time. So where I spend most of my time is past and future, and in the past what I usually dwell on is oh, I could have done this better, I should have said this, or things like that. And then in the future, look forward for the biggest goal that I can achieve, or oh my god, I really want this, or oh, I want to be that when I become this at this time. So that's where I spend most of my time with. And I was wondering, Arash, where do you spend most of your time?
Yeah. I would also be in the category of the past and the future. I think mostly in the past, and there's good things and bad things about it. I look at what could have been done differently a lot of the times, situations that happened to me, and there were times where I just go back in my head and I tell myself, I wish I would have done this, I would have done that, or I said this, that. But
I feel you.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. And about the future, it's more like what you don't want to happen in the future. For me, it's rather than knowing what I want, it's what I know what I don't want.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that comes from the past because of the things that happened to you in the past, and you're always afraid of them, the bad things specifically, and the good things you're looking forward to. Yeah, that's I think where I stand too.
Right. Okay. So we're kind of alike. Yeah.
Not a live in the moment kind of.
No. Okay. So in my opinion, we in our minds or with other people can start having conversations within all the three spaces.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Is so that we can continue to build our path in the way we want to live our lives. So how can we start having conversation with the past, present, and future? I think where we can start off is looking at what are the available options in each spaces.
Yeah.
So starting with past has the option of how do I want to perceive this experience. And what I mean by that is, like we mentioned earlier, past is something we cannot change.
Yeah.
It's what happened, and the only thing that we can change in the past is how we look at it. So if we've had a difficult experience, what is it that we're learning from that? How do we want to rewrite that story?
Yeah.
So that's the option in the past. Do you have anything to add here?
I would say, from the past, what you lived through is just going to make you see clearer when a similar situation, pops in the future. You'd be able to know your way around it. You could probably do a better job at what your standards are. And it is definitely something that you can always take a positive result out of from the past. it's not necessarily the case, but I guess most of the times, if you do the right thing when you're thinking and you're trying to get the right perspective of things and take away the good part of it, you can definitely do better.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good option.
I guess so. Yeah. Why
Yeah.
not?
Right. So the present, what does the present have in terms of option? So present has the option of the choices I can make. So this is where we can make the decisions.
Yeah.
This is where we have all the directions, we have all the paths, and we go like, oh, I'm gonna pick one and go with that.
Yeah. It's true. Present is more complicated because it's so entangled with our past. It's so intertwined with each other that what you are today and what you do today, not knowingly, could be the result of your past. And I'm not gonna say it's 100% that, but I think most of it would be that, because all your experiences are in your past. You never know what's going to happen in the future. All you know is your past. All you know is the experiences you've been through. So a lot of your decisions today are going to be influenced from the past, and some might come in the present from influences around you. So the present itself is a really important part, because it kind of builds your future. So it gets more complicated if you go on, but it's a really good area to focus, because it builds up to your future.
Yeah. The next one is future. Future has the option of what direction I want to create. So if the present is making the choice, future gives you that direction.
Yeah.
So I think you can make that connection here.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's another thing again that's interesting. Your future is also, like, what you want for your future is based on your past again. And like, based on your past, you decide what you do today, and that will determine what will happen to you tomorrow. So it's a very important relationship between these three, and that's just the development of a person, like how you develop as a person from the time you're born. You just keep growing as a person. You learn, and then you apply those things you've learned, and then eventually you're going to end up with something, and that's going to be your future. And where you go with that is just it depends on your take on the things you've learned from life. I mean, it sounds like, I know it, and I have no idea what's going on in life, and everything is a constant takeaway. You always learn, and it's never enough. There's never enough that you can possibly learn and think you got it all right. But
Yeah.
it's a difficult thing we're talking about. It's and everyone's going to make their own choices, and those are going to be kind of dependent on the past, is what I'm trying to say. So that future and present are all connected together, obviously. Like,
it sounds like what you're talking about is a serious decision.
Yeah.
So when you have to make a serious decision, you kind of look into the past and how does that affect the future, right? So let's bring in a small example here. So I think majority of us have had in our past the experience of dedicating a couple of months just working out.
Yeah.
And we know the results.
Yeah.
Right? But then we go back into our busy schedule and we kind of like deprioritize the exercise when we could have just done it every single day of our lives. We choose to do it in the present and do that.
Absolutely.
And then have the result you want. Like you know that from the past. You have the reference, but then life gets complicated sometimes, and we kind of like ignore that. But that's an example. So yes, there is a reference there, or like you can even see the reference from people's past.
That's a really good point you brought up.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is that not everything you learn, you're going to apply it. So even if you know the results of exercising could be positive, and you know that inside of you, you're not going to do that in the present, so therefore you might end up being maybe unhealthy in the future, So
yeah,
that's
again,
a very interesting take on that.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, the directions this present is going to take you, And are you okay with that?
Yeah.
But that's an option for you.
Yeah.
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 So let's move on to the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So what else is available? So I'd like to call it resources because there's a lot of things that we can cover. So what are the resources that's available in the past? So in the past, like you mentioned, experiences.
Yeah.
That's the big one in the past.
Yeah.
And, that includes memories, mistakes, lessons, what worked, what didn't work. That's all in the past. So it's a really nice reference to have.
Mm-hmm.
However, is it always valid?
Mm-hmm. This is a very good question. I don't think it's always valid for sure. I think the past is important sometimes. Dwelling too much on the past and trying to figure out what you did wrong and kind of obsessing over it definitely is unhealthy, I think. And it will cause you, just I've been through it. Personally, I think there were times that I just, till today, if I think about it, it just triggers this emotions inside of me that is really ugly, and it's like I'm not over it. I know, like, if I wish I could go back and I do this because that wasn't fair. And there's like things you don't get over, and dwelling on it certainly doesn't help. And trying to always look at that to go ahead with your life could sometimes be, I think, a wrong thing to do. And that's just, I can't say wrong for sure, but I think most of the times you just have to understand that the past is the past. Circumstances are different. It cannot be 100% the same. So, you cannot judge a situation just because it feels familiar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love the word you use, which is familiar,
Yeah.
because that can trigger a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you want to get into a healthy relationship, but if you've had a really bad experience in relationships, and once you feel that familiarity,
Yeah.
something might trigger it in you,
Absolutely.
and you might just run away before you can start.
Yeah. You just feel that, and you're like, I know what that feels like. I know where this is going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think it's again sort of spending the time in the past and really evaluating what is it that you've experienced. Is it really familiar? Is it really similar? Or is it that you've convinced yourself that it is the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it just requires a lot of awareness of yourself and the surroundings, and you just have to be able to see through things.
Yeah. Definitely.
That you need to be good at that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so present has resources of current opportunities and decision making.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that this is the growth area. Yeah. So what I mean by growth area is because all the opportunities are available right now. You either take it or you don't take it.
Yeah.
You make the choice right now or in the future. And I think the more we learn to live in the present, and the more we learn to pick up the choices that we want, we can see the future unfold in a certain way.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's why I call it a growth area. Yeah.
You're right about that, for sure. I actually can't add anything. I think you said it perfectly. That's just your current options and what you want to have, what you do about it is just gonna, continue to build you as a person.
Yeah.
Your growth areas, as you said. Areas of development.
Right. So, for example, today you can choose to read a book, to learn something new, or watch an inspirational speech, or you can try to learn a new skill, whether it be dancing or learning a language or, studying for the university that you want to join.
Yeah.
So these are all options that's available every second. Every second. And it's how we spend that time selecting what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's going to become a reader, not everyone's going to dance, not everyone's going to do all these hundreds and thousands of different experiences that we have.
Yeah.
So it's really understanding what is it that you are trying to achieve in the present
Mhm.
to build the future.
Yeah.
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 Great. So, the future has resources such as wisdom.
Mhm.
And what I mean by wisdom is, we've attained wisdom from the time we were 5-year-old,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So, in that same way of thinking, if you place yourself, let's say, at the 60-year-old, I can see myself much more like wiser,
Mhm.
with more experience, more laid back attitude, and there's also a sense of like I kind of like let the life flow
Mhm.
as it wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see that, and there's another part of it which is the bigger picture.
Mhm.
In the future, of course, you can't have that specific sort of like moment where this is going to happen.
Mhm.
It's all like a little blurry,
Mhm.
but having a bigger picture of what future do you want to paint sort of
Mhm.
gives you an idea of like, okay, today maybe I can do this, today
Mhm.
maybe I can do that, for me to go to that future that I envision.
Mhm. So it's like what you're saying is you kind of paint a picture of your future, and that influences your present
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
get to it.
Yeah,
Mm,
it
yeah.
gives a more like a clearer path.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the resources that's available in the
Mhm.
future.
Yeah.
Like the goals, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, different people have different ways of putting goals. Like some people do resolutions every year,
Mhm.
or like there would there are some people, like personally me, I go like, okay, in 3 months I'm going to start this,
Mhm.
and then by 6 months I'm going to finish that,
Yeah.
and then in 8 months I'm going to start something like this, and in 2 years I'm going to have this done.
Yeah.
So that's me putting goals and setting deadline for myself,
Mhm.
saying that this is what I want to accomplish by the end of
Yeah.
this journey. So yeah, so that kind of helps me with like the direction that I
Staying
want.
in line with your
That
focus.
focus. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So what's your thought on that?
I think planning definitely works, and having a vision of your future, and kind of understanding what you want and you don't want, and that definitely helps, you know, for the sort of motivation you require to, and also the path you're going to take in the present. It definitely helps. It makes you fight for it. It makes you fight for what you want to be, what you want to become. Like everything you've learned from the past, and from today, and that you keep on continuing to go through and experience, are going to create those things that you want in the future. And that's the most interesting part, because um, you kind of know what exactly you're looking for, but it's never accurate, never 100%, never going to be. Maybe
It might
in-
change
yeah
in between.
yeah definitely. There's a lot of things in life that you go through and you completely change your perspective on it. And that's also an interesting topic on its own. The fact that how quickly can you change something you were so sure it was correct,
Yeah.
and you're so sure that was the way it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
but then it can be different. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Future is what you make of it, and
Yeah.
you have your own choices. You make your choices based on what you're looking for that comes from the past.
Right.
You know.
Cool. So the next part is going to be super interesting. We're going to basically combine two of it and see what comes out from it.
Mhm.
So if I stand, or if we all stand between the past and the present, then what becomes available? So you have the past and you have the present.
Yeah.
Yeah. What comes to you?
That's a very interesting question. And that is having the knowledge that I have now.
Well, that's from your past.
I mean, it's not really different, because I think eventually you might think you know better because of what you know today. Definitely, there's some areas where you can take advantage. Let's talk about getting rich, for example. If I knew Bitcoin in 2017 is gonna 2018, I think December 2017, reached its all-time high. Well, if I know that knowledge, and I know it's going to happen, and I'm somewhere in between that and my past, I would definitely be rich. but that's about it. Or maybe some decisions that you kind of know. It's kind of like predicting the future if you know what's happening in the present and you're somewhere between that and your past. So there's opportunistic way to look at it, and then there are, I think, on a personal level, there are other things to look at. What's your take on it?
So I think when I stand in my past and the present, I can see how far I've come. Yeah, how far I've come with certain things. So with the experiences that, like I feel like when you have an experience with certain skills, it always stays.
Yeah.
So I can see how far I've come with that experience in that particular skill. I can also see how much more aligned I am today than before. So I'm kind of like building on myself. So I can see how much I've built. Yeah, so it goes back to like how far you have come. Yeah. Or like it could be how far you have not.
Yeah.
Right? So there was something that you wanted to do 1 year ago. And then today it's like, okay, I haven't even taken a step there. So
yeah, that's true.
it just gives you that measure, I
Story
think.
of my life.
Okay. Yeah, and then if you stand between the present and future, then what comes available? Do you want to start with this?
No, I think you go ahead and have a think about it.
Okay. So I've put here adventure. Yeah, so, present is like now, right? And then future is like, okay, what's going to happen? So I think there's a lot of adventure element to that. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's something to also look forward to. So there's both. There's the fear, there's the excitement, and putting the present and the future, it's like you can make any move. It's like playing a chess game, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what move am I going to make to win? What move am I going to make to win? So that's how I look at it when I stand between present and future.
Yeah, that's technically like the future anyway, right?
Yeah, but you're like
it's
actively.
difficult for me to put myself in that spot because it's like so hard to imagine like that space. If you're there, what options do you have? What's available to you? I guess more of what you know now, more of what you have today, and probably it is adventurous and it's going to be uncertain because you don't know what's going to happen. Unpredictable, I guess, to an extent, because you're still doing your decisions, you're still doing things. There's external factors that always affects, but it's not going to be affecting it as long as you're doing everything right. So
You know what I just saw when you were talking?
What?
I saw you think of present more. That was very interesting.
I did.
You did, yeah. You were more in the present and the future, kind of like.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe I was not aware of myself. Maybe I'm a more present person.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean,
Like,
it's difficult for me to envision.
Yeah. Future?
No, not future, but the space you're talking about, because it's like present and future. Between it, it's still kind of future for me. So it's like a blur.
Yeah. It's probably because, like, you said you kind of like spend a lot of time in the past and the future, so you can make that connection between the past and the future.
Yeah.
And then when the present comes in between,
It's all confusing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I can talk about the present and the past and the future pretty well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to that.
Yeah.
If you stand between past and the future, then what's available? So personally speaking, I feel that when we talk about past and future, it sounds like it's so far off, right? But then I look at it as 3 seconds ago, what I just said is already the past.
Yeah.
So there's really like that much distance between the past and the future.
Yeah.
And the what's making it active is the presence, but removing presence at this point, past and future is, I think it's a lot of reflection that you can find, a lot of reflection on what has happened, what could be done.
Yeah.
So I see it as like 2 different islands. One's got a lot of treasure, it's obvious, it's seen, and then the other is a hidden treasure.
Mhm.
So you don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
You know, but they're so close. They're so close.
Yeah.
So that's how I see the past and the future.
It's true. You know what happened in the past. You don't. There's the uncertainty of the future. It's like you got two treasure boxes.
But
One
is
is
it
open.
really?
You know what's inside of it. The other one is like, let's see what's inside. Who knows? Let's open it up and see.
Exactly.
One might have something good in it. One might not.
Mhm. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
So right now, as we sit on this table, you know what's gonna happen in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
We're gonna be sitting here.
Yeah.
Right? You know what's gonna happen in half an hour. Well, you have an idea of like what you're gonna be doing at 1 hour later.
Yeah.
So if we start building like that,
Mhm.
then the future is not gonna be so far off.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
And that is so true. But how far along could you possibly like predict?
So here's the thing. That's the that's when that uncertainty
The
kicks
scale is
Yes.
what's important here.
in. Exactly. So I think again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish here,
Yeah.
right? So if you're just going out to meet with friends, that doesn't involve anything.
Mhm.
You know what's going to happen at what time and everything.
Yeah.
But then when you're, let's say, planning to let's say learn how to ski, for example,
Mhm. Yeah.
you don't know how long it's going to take for you to practice
Yeah.
that skill and become this person who's like a professional.
Mhm.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
But that's when the present can come in to help.
Yeah.
And go like, hey, I'm here.
Mhm.
Use me.
Take advantage.
Use
yeah.
me. Yeah, use the present
Yeah.
for you to make the future prediction easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right about that. That was a really good example.
Hmm.
And it's true. Nothing to say about that. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. So let's go to the maintenance bit. So I feel like, every space can also have maintenance.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest maintenance part that we can do is the past.
Yeah.
There's a lot of adjustments we can make, like, we mentioned about like looking at it from different angles, different perspectives, what are the lessons learned and all
Mhm.
this stuff. So I think if, let's say, for example, you've had a traumatic experience and you haven't really overcome that, then how can you adjust that? You might maybe need help from outside of yourself,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong to seek help for that.
Absolutely not.
If there's no way that you can sort of help yourself in it,
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's okay. And then reviewing and researching the best option right now in the present.
Mhm.
So reviewing, I think, taking the time to review and research,
Mhm.
like before you make the decision,
Yeah.
like ask people or do the research online or listen to a podcast or whatever that is. Do a lot of work before making a choice that's important for you.
Correct.
So that stays within the present.
Mhm.
The act of reviewing and researching,
Yeah.
to make it more predictable or to make it more assured and confident that you are going to make this choice and you're happy with it.
Mhm.
Or you know what, you don't have to be 100% happy.
Yeah.
You can be 85% happy or 70%, but if that gives you that comfort of moving forward, then I think this is a crucial step.
Yeah, I guess there's two things I'd like to talk about when you say that. It's one is moving on, and then there is the fact that something that happened in your past was just something you can move on, but it still makes you angry. You're moved on. You're doing your life. Everything's great, but if you think about it, it still kind of lingers. It's some of these stuff. I'm not talking about. I mean, some could be traumatic to people. People have been through difficult things in life. But personally speaking, if there's a time that, let's say, I think about in the past and it kind of bothers me, and I just, the ugly emotions come out. I don't think it's still stuck in me in a way, or that kind of is changing who I am today or affecting me in trying to achieve what I want. Some might do, I'm not fully aware of it if it is, it's just like this whole idea of you never know any of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to say that it could be a big thing in your past, probably. I don't know, now I'm confused because I could possibly be having some trouble in the past that is affecting me today, but what I believe that it's not like that. I believe that what's from the past is just something that you can take it to bother you. You can possibly always relive it. You can stay in this negative zone that every time you think about it, you remember all the misery you felt or all the anger you felt and all of that. Or you can just not think about it and understand that that was just the past. And now if you encounter something like that, how are you going to deal with it today?
Yeah.
And that's the big thing that you're looking for. You just look for some sort of redemption eventually to find that if I get that opportunity now, this is what I will do. And if you do that, then I guess you can really move on from it because
you're ready.
Because you've been thinking about it for so long. You've been living through that experience, or something that traumatized you, something that broke your heart, something that hurt you, or any. I mean, we're just talking about the negatives here. It could be positive too,
Yeah, I mean, you can be living a very positive experience and be very proud of it.
Yeah.
But today you aren't that.
Yeah.
So then how long are you going to be reliving the time that was most, happiest for you?
Yeah.
What's the point if you're not happy today?
Mm-hmm. You're right about that. I don't think it's helpful at all for your future and not for your present.
So what's helpful?
It is a little helpful.
So what's helpful? What's helpful for your future?
I'm going to go back to your first point where you started, and what you said was the perspective on things and how you're going to take and what you're going to take away from that. I think that's what's helpful. Understanding what you're supposed to take away from things that happen to you, experiences you go through, that's going to define who you're going to become today and in your future.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I have a similar thought on that, and I think future for me is a question mark to a certain point, and I kind of put this thing where I ask myself, am I headed to the goal or the dream with the choices that I'm making? So am I getting closer to that future that I envision, or am I getting far off? Do I want to add or remove some things that I thought I would have in the future? And how's that going to affect me? So there's a lot of questioning in the future, and there's no answer. I mean, you're just gonna find out, right? Like I'm only gonna find out 10 years from today, who am I going to be, what am I going to do. However, it does help a lot when you have an outline of the picture. So you know how artists, like, they don't just start painting.
Start with
exactly, they start with this like fine outlining of like what they want to draw, and then from there they start like erasing. But then they do a lot of adjustments before they can put the colors on it,
for example.
So it's like that. And that's why, have an outline in your life. See what you want to do with it.
That is really good advice and a perfect example. Can't think of anything better than that. That's exactly how it is, because that's what life kind of resembles. You just add and remove and modify and change until you get that one picture. Now, is it the greatest picture you could possibly do? Are you satisfied with it? No. Those could be, different answers from everyone.
And again, the picture doesn't have to be one. You can paint so many different pictures.
Exactly. I think that's what's the beauty of life.
Exactly.
The options, the difference, embrace the difference.
Exactly.
Well,
this was fun.
It was, definitely.
Thank you, Arash, for joining.
Thanks, Adam.
Happy to have you.
Good to meet you.
So what are your thoughts on the topic? Please share them in the comment box below. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.